The 15-minute cities that everyone is talking about now is the Great Reset's trendy new name for open-air prison camps. The idea is to corral everyone into neighborhoods small enough to walk from one end to the other in 15 minutes. Everything you need within a half-mile radius, so that you'll never, ever have to leave. There is nothing harmless about the Great Reset. The perpetrators of this outrageous plan are marketing it with a gentle tone, telling you that you will eat healthy, stay active, get around, and enjoy the outdoors in your tiny, little, open-air prison camp. These organizations are telling you that there isn't enough room for you because you are the reason that Mother Earth is sick. This is the subtext convincing people to not have children and persuading them to castrate the ones they have. Comfortable lies for the fearful. And those with the courage to see the truth can see that this is just an accounting issue. We the people are seen as livestock, looked down upon as useless eaters by godless who want a more manageable herd to exploit for their own selfish desires, who want us to own nothing and be happy and eat the bugs. This plan was officially announced in 2015 and made actionable in 2017 with the goal of accomplishing most of it by 2030. Paris is being celebrated for leading the charge on the trendy new 15-minute city prison camps. But they are not alone. Melbourne, Australia is building theirs. And in America, New York City, Los Angeles, and Cleveland are doing the same. The right to travel is not in the Bill of Rights. In the past, the courts have ruled that this presumed right is firmly established in U.S. law, but things have changed. Today, we are at risk of losing it all. And if we don't stand up for our own freedom, then who will?
The Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights is arguably the most revolutionary act of government in all of recorded history. And some Americans seem to think it's a law that allows a citizen to own a firearm for self-protection. That is false. This was true before the American Revolution. All throughout history, there were laws created by the ruling power that allowed certain citizens to carry certain weapons for self-protection. But that's not what the Second Amendment is at all. The Second Amendment officially recognizes the God-given birthright that every American innately possesses: freedom. Every single American, down to the lowest commoner, has the right to arm themselves and constitute themselves in a militia. The Second Amendment does not grant us the right. It stands to protect our natural rights from government. It is the bane of every tyrant and control freak, because before the Second Amendment, only the ruling class had standing armies. The Second Amendment is the only remedy man has ever wielded against a corrupt government, and it can't be taken away or infringed upon unless we fail future generations and allow it, which is already happening. Several states have unlawfully stripped Americans of their birthright and imposed infringements upon, which has only increased the amount of in those areas, because criminals don't obey laws. And even though the Supreme Court recently honored the Second Amendment, our corrupt Congress is working together to infringe upon all Americans. No matter what happened in Texas, we know that the police stood down and allowed it to happen. And after Hollywood dispatched their latest celebrity with political aspirations to dance on the graves of children, we know why they stood down. Unless you're a brainwashed zombie, it's crystal clear why the government is desperately trying to challenge the Second Amendment. The U.S. government is not only guilty of committing crimes against the American people, they are guilty of committing crimes against humanity and international crimes. It is in fact the American citizen's duty to remedy the situation and restore the republic. It may often be a solution in human affairs, but it is never a good solution, and it requires very little courage, if any at all. And that brings us to the First Amendment. The First Amendment is not nearly as revolutionary as the Second, but it requires more courage to wield. To peacefully stand against evil with your individual voice alone requires great courage. And if enough people were able to muster that courage, then the light of truth would overcome the darkness, and the American people would become a righteous people. This is why in Washington, D.C., want to convict Julian Assange under the Espionage Act. They see it as a viable way to circumvent the First Amendment. If they can convict Assange, they can convict Tucker Carlson and Alex and anyone who exposes their corruption. And then what? Immediately following the Supreme Court's decision to recognize the Second Amendment, they overturned Roe v. Wade, another constitutional victory. See children as a commodity, a slave, or a piece of property to dispose of as its owner sees fit. But our American birthright applies to every living American. As revolutionary as it may be, the Bill of Rights is nothing more than a lawful remedy that we inherited. It merely recognizes our natural freedom. To actually secure this freedom requires the courage and the will of the people. Our government's job is not to change our Constitution. Their job is to secure it and abide by it, which is what only one Supreme Court judge seems interested in doing. In the recent Supreme Court arguments, the majority of judges expressed their concern that their decision would be used to overturn other recent decisions, specifically constitutional laws pertaining to contraception, sodomy, and Judge Thomas alone made it clear that these decisions should be overturned. And he's right, because all of these perverse concessions are nothing more than attacks on our Constitution. And if Americans were a serious and righteous people, we would preserve our American birthright for generations to come.
Americans are gonna get furious when they hear this. After a year of paying the highest food prices in nearly 4 decades, industry insiders are warning that your grocery bill is set to shoot up even higher this winter, and the coming round of increases is gonna be extremely painful. 50, 60, and even 70% price hikes are no longer a threat, but a reality millions of households in the United States are already facing. At this point, more than 1 in 5 American families is reporting food insecurity due to the skyrocketing costs, according to the results of a survey released yesterday by the Urban Institute. Our domestic food production took a massive hit this year, and farmers are fuming, with the situation saying that things are definitely not gonna be okay. Meanwhile, supermarket CEOs and restaurant chains are telling the public to buy and stock up on supplies while they still can, because conditions are only gonna get more complicated from here on. In other words, it's time to get ready for a cold, dark winter, while our hard-working population gets increasingly fed up with the oppressive cost of living and the abusive surge in food inflation that may send some people over the edge. Winter is coming, and so is another price shock at grocery stores. Tens of millions of Americans are already struggling with empty shelves and inflated prices, and according to ReadyWise, an emergency food supply company, U.S. consumers shouldn't ignore food shortage warnings, because these alarming trends are expected to continue and worsen in 2023, with egg prices soaring 40%, chicken and meat prices rising 22%, flour getting 23% more expensive, and even bread facing double-digit price increases. It's clear that the official rate of food and grocery inflation, currently standing at 12 and 14% respectively, do not tell the whole story. What consumers are seeing when they go to the supermarket is deeply disturbing. A new report published by the New York Times revealed that shoppers are reporting 50 to 70% price increases at their local supermarkets. Susan Pollock, a property manager from Marina Del Rey, California, said that at a local Costco, a 5-pack of short ribs is almost 70% higher than a year ago, jumping from around $60 to $200 last month. "I told my husband we're never having short ribs again," she said. At a Stop and Shop in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Hoggadale, the 35-year-old Instacart shopper pointed out that a single packet of powdered powder drink mix that once sold for 25 cents shot up to 56 cents, more than doubling in price. Lord forbid if you have a big shop to do, Miss Dale said as she left the grocery store with a customer's order. You're literally penny pinching. This inflation thing is a real problem, another shopper added. When you are paying twice as much to fill your gas tank and twice as much for everything, you've got to say to yourself, well, can I really afford to buy everything I need? As food staples face a price barrel, more and more people are being forced to cut back on spending to be able to make meat. For Angie Goodman, a housekeeper from Culver City, California, who would usually eat meat once a week, the recent spikes that push the price of steak up by 50% mean that she may only be able to eat meat once a month. Miss Goodman, 54, noted that she makes less than $15 an hour, a figure that has remained stagnant as the cost of living continued to climb. Basic things are very expensive, she said. It's crazy. I'm just taking extra loans to pay for my expenses. I'm maxing out on my credit cards. In recent weeks, furious shoppers have flooded the internet with stories on how much the rise in everyday expenses is impacting their families. One of them shared their shopping on Reddit, shocking others with a basket of just 15 items for over $50. When I saw the bill, I definitely felt that America is getting way too expensive to even cover basic needs, he wrote. The bad news is that the next wave of price increases is expected to reflect the ripple effect of over 24 months of disruptions in our food supply chain and our domestic agricultural production. In plain English, prepare your wallets because another blow is coming. Some of the nation's leading food suppliers, farmers, industry insiders, supermarket CEOs, and restaurant chains are all sounding the alarm about winter price hikes. Early last month, Kraft, Tyson, and Campbell Soup all warned they would raise prices on a series of products due to surging costs for labor, packaging, ingredients, and transportation. The Wall Street Journal reported fast food joints like McDonald's, Shake Shack, and Cracker Barrel have also said they will pass on the higher cost of consumers this holiday season. Inflation is real and it's not gonna get any better anytime soon in the restaurant business. Shake Shack CEO Randy Carodi said at the company's latest investor conference. Campbell Soup just revealed plans to raise prices for the fourth time this year, with the rising cost of some products hurting sales to baby boomers. CEO Mark Klaus noted, "We know the pressure that consumers are feeling," Klaus said, arguing that they don't know what else they can do to navigate the current economic environment. On top of that, Tyson Foods said another 24% increase in beef prices is coming before year's end starting this month. And Sanderson Farms, the country's third largest chicken producer, said that the cost of its products is gonna jump 34% during this final quarter. Food maker and processor Hormel Foods shared an even more alarming forecast, given that prices for corn and soybean meal for livestock feed surge 125% and 40% respectively. Prices at the store are gonna go up accordingly this winter. If prices of grain-based meals and meat at our local supermarkets absorb even a fraction of these spikes, this means we are all in deep trouble. The average American household is already being forced to spend an extra $500 per month on food, according to an analysis from Moody's Analytics senior economist Ryan Sweet. Are you ready to see your grocery bill doubling, tripling, and reaching stratospheric heights in the next few months? Because more than 1 in 5 U.S. households are not.